Well, welcome. We're glad you're here. So this is an information session on the Program Excellence Network. This is part of the Academy of Human Resource Development. So we're glad you're here. So why don't we go ahead and while we're waiting for people to join, why don't we have we'd like for everyone to introduce themselves. So share your name, your role, your organization, maybe what's bringing you joy today, and why are you here? What did you want to get out of this session? So Kevin, would you mind starting?
Yes, thank you. Hi, my name is Dr. Kevin Sanford. I am the chair of the business department at Los Angeles Valley College. I got my PhD from UT Tyler in HRD. And so one of the things that I want to do within the California community colleges, there's 116 of them, and there's not one single HRD program. So I just created a HRM certificate, and now I want to create an associate's in human resource development. And I have visions of grandeur to eventually have a bachelor's degree in HRD as well. I'm hoping for the first in the state, which I'm really excited about that.
Hmm. Thank you so much. That's exciting. Uh, Kathy?
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Kathy Yeager. Um, so Kevin, I was lived in Lufkin for a long time over in East Texas and almost went to the UT Tyler program, but they didn't have their accreditation at the time that I was looking. So I actually wound up at Texas A&M getting my degree there. I am actually on the board of AHRD and I have the opportunity to help Dr. Sims shepherd the PEN program in anticipation of the board rotation and being able to step in and fill her big shoes in the next year or so with this. So that's me. Welcome.
Kathy Pugacheski. I'm the executive director of AHRD. So it's very nice to meet you, Kevin, and work with Cynthia and Kathy on the PEN administration. So glad to be here and glad summer's here as far as joy. And always look forward to learning from all of the researchers and professionals. And Kevin, that sounds like a really exciting opportunity that you're doing. So that'll be interesting to see how PEN could potentially help on that too.
Awesome. Thank you.
Excellent. And I'm Dr. Cynthia Sims, and I am a board member here with the Academy of Human Resource Development. I am been working with the Program Excellence Network for several years now. In addition to that, I'm an associate professor at University of Georgia. What brings me joy today is that it's a beautiful day and being here with wonderful colleagues. So I'm a happy camper. Too much to do, but a happy camper. And and I'm here to learn from you. So that's what I want to do. And we're glad you're here, Kevin. Be happy to talk about the HRD program and again, what PEN might be able to do to help.
Awesome. Thank you.
Agenda, we're going to talk a little bit about PEN. And then what do we do? Talk about the memberships, share some information about our online directory, talk about we meet so at the conference, the Americas conference in February. So we'll share a little bit about what we did then, what we have planned. So that's it. So Kevin, what's your knowledge of AHRD and PEN?
So I can get my camera to work here. Sorry about that. Okay, excellent. Hey, how you doing? So I'm actually, while I live in California, I'm actually on vacation right now in Philadelphia visiting family. So, well, prior to attending UT Tyler, I was not real familiar with HRD. I had my MBA from Sam Houston State University, and then I live in California because I joined the Marine Corps, and so I just stayed I stayed in California after I got out of the Marine Corps and started teaching full time. And so it's when I started the HRD program at UT Tyler under the doctors Gilly and Dr. Nyman, one of the things that I am proud of, and it's kind of silly, is that they did not have an online option at the time. So I would fly from California to Houston, where my family is, my mom, my grandma, and then drive to UT Tyler, which is like a 300-mile drive. And I would do that, once a month, sometimes twice a month. And so I really got immersed in the HRD program there at Tyler, which is really exciting. And I've been to the HRD conference, several times. Since leaving the program in 2019, I've not been actively participating, but this is something that I really want to do. And so what I want to do is I want to make it a regular thing for myself and my faculty. I have 12 full-time faculty that will be teaching in the HRD program. To most of them have MBAs, and so again, no one has an HRD except for me. And so and we have some HRMs, like some masters in HRM. We might have a DBA in HRM too. I'm not exactly sure, but so the faculty, I want to try to get them involved as well. And ultimately, what I want to do is I want to be able to sort of, I guess, my takeaway, I guess, from what I want the to be able to talk about. The ultimate question I always get is, what's the difference between HRM and HRD? And so I'm already familiar with that. So I think I've got that down, but I just want to find out what resources are available. And ultimately, I know that I'm going to have to teach my instructors how to teach or how to speak to HRD instead of HRM, or instead of an MBA type topic.
Thank you for sharing that. Okay, thank you. Okay, so that gives me a place to know how I need to maybe level set, and feel free to ask questions.
Thank you.
So this is who we are. So this is a little bit about me, Dr. Kathy Yeager, and Dr. Sonia Shadamu. She's not able to join us today, but this is the team for PEN. And so PEN, so we can talk a little bit about the value proposition, the purpose, benefits, and future. So really, this got started several years back, but we typically meet once a year at the conference, and then we have, and that's our face-to-face meetings, typically for a half day. And then we have other programming similar to this that we'll do in the spring, summer, and fall. So that's typically what we do. But it's an annual meeting of delegates. And really the whole purpose is to network, share best practices, engage in professional development. PEN has member listservs, so if you've got a question, you can get out there. There's some social media aspects to the website, so you can post things, opportunity to participate and receive results of benchmarking surveys. You can post job listings and the like. So really, those are the things that we've been doing with PEN historically. So those are some of the benefits. We talked about as a member of PEN, so typically organizations, colleges, universities have someone, whoever is leading up their HRD program will be a member of PEN. So that's typically what happens. Membership is $99. We really wanted to expand it to all graduate programs. And so we asked that people identify a delegate and someone full-time that can represent their HRD program. And so really you can see the purpose of PEN historically has been to strengthen HRD academic programs and promote excellence in teaching. So that's really what we try to do. And so it is a forum, people get together, they share, they like to learn what's going on. So we'll talk about that. We talked a little bit about what the membership looks like, and who should be part of that. And these are current members. So right now we've got about 19 members. You can see Boise State. So we've got people from the East Coast, the Midwest, the South. We don't have a whole lot of folks from California or the Pacific, and we've had one or two people reach out. And we know that there's people who have now sort of the HRD zip code we've identified as people who have HRD programs but have not historically been part of the academy. And a lot of them are on the West Coast. So, but this gives you a feel for who our members are currently. We do have one university from South Africa, and we are trying to also expand our international presence. So Penn was historically sort of US centric, and we're trying to broaden that. It's just the resources and the time difference. So trying to figure all that out. So in addition to that, we have an AHRD online directory. So if you go online, this is some of the information that you receive. And so this is part of AHRD. And I can go ahead and I can put this in, I'll put it in chat. But you can see, you can get the universities, you can click on the link. And so, for example, if you clicked on one of the links, then this is the detailed information that would show up about your organization. So that's one of the nice things about being a member. And then people can do more research if they'd like. But it's nice to have all the programs sort of in one place. If someone was searching for that or looking for it, they can do that, and it would link back to the website, but they could get an overview. So that's one thing that is advantage to being a member. And then in terms of programming, like I said, we've met historically at the conference, the Conference of the Americas. Last year, it was in Arlington, Virginia. And so it was about 5 hours. And so we have a graduate student SIG. So this is our group, special interest group. So they shared some of the things that they're doing. We had a presentation from Dr. Kevin Rose. He's the one that talks about zip codes. So he was able to share what are some of the trends in HRD degree completion. So he was able to map that from the 70s to current. We talked about the AHRD directory, the online that you just saw a little bit about. We had a nice panel discussion around establishing virtual programs. What does that look like? And then we spent a lot of time as sort of a program lead discussion forum. And so I'll talk more about what that looks like. We're also currently doing some focus group research. We're starting at the doctoral level. So how are HRD doctoral programs meeting the career development needs of their students? So we have looking at this research, we're looking at it the lens from the student level as well as the program level and doing a comparison. And then we had a reimagining the HRD program. So that was another focus group. So those are really what we were doing for last time. And so when we have those sessions, people have the option to invite a second person if they'd like to participate. So that is what happens in talking with our members. They like that format. They want to have an opportunity to have that discussion and exchange. They like keeping it open, so we have a certain amount of programming and non-programming where they can just share. So that's what happened in the February, the spring of this year. And then upcoming programming for Penn members, we're doing information sessions over the summer. We do want to let people know that the deadline for the research conference submission is August 31st. So that's coming up. So if you have students or yourself, faculty members who might be interested in submitting to present at the conference, that's the deadline. And then, as we mentioned, we like to do a few sessions in the fall, the spring. So upcoming, we'll have another program lead discussion forum in September. And we'll want to do more around how do we support faculty, specifically clinical faculty in HRD programs. So that'll be a session in November. One of the things that Kevin has done with his research and that he shared, most of the growth in HRD program is coming at the master's levels. There's more limited support at the baccalaureate or at the certificate level, but most of the growth is at the master's level, and the faculty trends, again, clinical faculty. So we wanted to support that. We'll have our next international face-to-face session in February in Texas. And then in the spring, we'll do another program lead discussion forum. So that's what we have coming up. So that's really what we wanted to share. What we were hoping to do was to have more of a group, and we could really share some program lead best practices. So just in terms of the format of those discussion forums, what we do is we put people into small groups, about 4. We ask people to do sort of a round robin to share what's a challenge, an issue that they're seeking the support of their peers. Then they vote on the items and identify that one topic that they want to go more deeply in. Then they'll have that discussion and do a report out. So those are what we've been doing in terms of PEN and this lead discussion forum. We're happy to practice that if that's something you'd like to do. So that's really what we were thinking of, Kevin.
That's awesome. Thank you. I do have 2 questions. One, because again, this is something I've thought of doing on my own, and I tried, because again, it is a community college in California, and so I tried looking at the associate's degree level, like, are there any in the U.S. at all that have associate's degree in HRD? And I couldn't find one, so I don't know. Maybe they're out there. Maybe you know. Any of you know? Are there associate level HRDs? I have no idea.
I have not seen one.
That's
That
awesome, man.
doesn't mean that they don't exist, but I have
That's
not
right.
seen one.
I
Now,
kind of hope they don't, so I could do it.
certificate programs, yes, because there's not even that many baccalaureate programs. So
Mhm.
you would definitely be forging new territory.
Well, because like there are, because of the number of students in California, and the state schools like the UC and CSU could not um, accommodate all the students, and so the state started allowing community colleges to have bachelor's degrees as well. And so currently there's like 27 bachelor's degrees in the schools across the state.
Okay.
And so our school has one in respiratory therapy, and another school in our district has one in aviation mechanics. And the rule is you can only have a bachelor's degree if it is not in the CSU. And so again, they do have a bachelor's in HRM. They do not have one in HRD, which again made me excited, because as we all know, there is a difference. And so, so I believe moving forward, I'm going to have to convince lots of people that there are differences, because they've not been done before. And so I know I've been to conferences where they do have associate level or certificate level or even bachelor level, where the students would come and do presentations as well, while there's more of a focus, in my experience, because I was in the PhD program, from the master's and the doctorate level. But I believe that my goal is that once they get in that pathway, then they would then transfer to other schools to be able to continue on to, the graduate level. But initially, I think that would be an amazing accomplishment. And I've already talked to a lot of people, like the vice president of our college and other vice presidents in our district, and they think it's possible, which that's not a no. So that's a good start. So I believe the HRD certificate will, not certificate. Yeah, I'm sorry. The HRD associate's degree. The associate's degree will definitely happen. That's absolutely going to happen. but the bachelor's degree will be more of a reach, but not impossible. So
Okay.
I'm
So I
excited.
know Clemson has a baccalaureate degree, and they developed their program with the idea that they're, as a people who had an associate degree would then feed into the program. And I think they're calling it capital something, a human capital program. So that's what they're calling it. I wasn't crazy about that name, but that's what they came up with. Boise State has a baccalaureate program, so there are a few. I think you're the first one that has mentioned associates. And I bring up the Clemson program because there are a lot of people who are in industry who are in development jobs. And I'm not sure what California is like, but prior to Georgia, I was at Clemson. And so there's a lot of small to medium-sized companies in in South Carolina. And so there's a need to develop people who can run learning and development initiatives in their organizations. And career planning and development. So that was really the focus of those degrees. So it would be consistent with what you're doing. So I can only imagine, people with an associate's degree in California, that there would be a similar need to have people who have some expertise in that learning development, organizational development space, and this would give them that foundation.
Thank you. One of the things that they take into consideration when authorizing, maybe it's across the nation, but I only know California, that one of the things that they take into consideration when authorizing a associate's degree is, or even a certificate, is do we have the LMI data that supports that? Does it show that there's a need for it? And there are lots of community colleges in California that do have HRM associate's degree, and I believe we can use that same data or similar data as far as the needs of HR. Like, what are the needs of HR? And there's definitely a need for HR. There's no question about that. So because I'm assuming like South Carolina, the need for small job help or placement or employees within the small sort of entrepreneurial areas. I believe that there's a huge demand for that. And again, the data does show that there is a huge demand. So I think that's why it would be easier to try to support that. I like that people are shaking their head yes, and nobody's saying no, this is a bad idea. So thank you for that already. So
I think it's exciting. No, I think Kathy and Cynthia, I'm not even sure we've considered the associate level program or the community college system, and maybe we have. But it's interesting when we think about how we're going to train people right in different levels and where they get their education. So it's yeah, very exciting.
Well, and I think it's one of those things that our assumption was that everyone was at the 4-year level, right? And that we hadn't expanded our thinking that was a possibility. So
well,
this
it's
is
super
great.
new, to be honest with you. It's real new that we're starting to offer these 4-year degrees at a 2-year school. It's brand new, and it's a whole new territory. And I suspect that going into the gathering, first of all, I know attending the HRD conference in the past, as opposed to like I've been to the Academy of Management. I don't know how to describe the two different, except for I felt like the HRD was much warmer and much more inviting and receptive to. It was friendlier, to be honest with you. And while I love both, they were amazing. They were definitely two different entities in the atmosphere. And so I feel like going into those, either one, there'll be misunderstanding and some sort of resistance to like, oh, it's a community college. But when I throw in the part there that one of the main reasons I'm doing it is to create a pathway to the higher levels, and then the people start smiling. Like, oh, okay, now it makes sense to me. That's why you would do it.
Right.
So.
Yeah.
Well, and you're supporting the development of adults, because that's who the community college population is quite a bit of, quote unquote, non-traditional students, and that's their pathway. So it definitely makes sense. And, you know, any way that we can help you as you form or look at those different curriculums, and that could get at, because we've got, most of the colleges have a lot of different certificates, so that could be also the way you might want to take a look at that. So in terms of, we've got people have certificates, for example, at Georgia, we have a leadership certificate, complexity leadership. We've got a certificate in coaching. We're talking about developing a certificate or, yeah, a certificate or a degree program in medical learning, because, or the health sciences, learning in the health sciences, because that seems to be such a big um, focal area in a lot of different organizations. So I think that you could have definitely some choices there in terms of, you know, how you might be able to develop a complementary program.
That's awesome. Thank you.
All right. So, you know, in terms of how to join PEN, it's pretty straightforward from the AHRD website. And I can go ahead and share that, and I'll do that at the end. So I think we're just about there. Okay, so let me pull up AHRD.
Do we know, is there a HRD directory of programs?
Yes.
Awesome.
So this is the website. And so to get to PEN, you would go to Member Central. And then so you can become a member. So that's how, but the communities, you would go here to where it says PEN. And so this is what it looks like. So this is the searchable directory. So that's what we have right now. And a lot of the things I just discussed are on this page. So how to join as a PEN member, how to send job postings, how to post things to the website. And so this is really how you get to the searchable directory. If I put in university and continue, you'll get a list of all of the universities that are PEN members. So that's what I was sharing before. And so you could just click on any of them. So for example, University of New Mexico, I can click on that. And then I get information about University of Mexico. So the degree programs offered, public-private program areas, degree program information, delivery program size, that type of thing. And then, so just information. And if you click on it, it'll actually take you to their website. So if someone's trying to get a sense of, well, what programs are out there, that's one way that they can go ahead and see what is out there and what's available. And then I think we mentioned how to join PEN. You know, it's pretty straightforward. There's a join as a PEN member, so that's the other part of that. And so it's just really logging in and registering. So, and then there's a PEN online community that you can be sort of a member central. There's different publications, but you're familiar with AHRD, so you've seen this before. So, so that's really where we are. So I'll stop sharing and see what other questions you may have.
Ultimately, my takeaway I was hoping my takeaway from this is to make connections, which I seem like I have by joining PEN. That would be really a great start. So I saw UT Tyler was on there, which is exciting. In fact, if they weren't on there, I was going to contact them and say, I'm just curious, is there a reason to not be part of this?
Yeah.
But the fact that they're on there, that means that I value their opinion, and so I think this is a great group. And even just again, your reception of my idea makes me very happy. So thank you for that. So
Oh, sure.
And Kevin, just to let you know, through the end of June, so to be a member of Penn, you have to be an individual member.
mhm.
And I saw that you were a lapsed member because you've come in the past. So it's $75 off of the individual membership through June 30th. So that's if you go to join, you just put in welcome 75 and you'll get $75 off the individual membership. And then Penn is a separate membership, but it's tied to being an individual member. And the other thing I would just say is when you go to, if you join Penn after you join individually, it's going to have you set up another username and passwords because it's an org membership versus an individual. So that's the way it's set up. You can obviously send me any questions as well if you have any while you're doing it. But I just thought I'd mention the membership campaign through June 30th because you can save $75. And
Right.
Cynthia and Kathy, I would probably also say since you're joining Penn as an annual membership, if you did join, it would probably go through 2026 because it's further enough along in the year. So you would be getting a year and a half of membership in the Penn too. So
Good to know.
And is the PIN, is it for the entire school or is it for individual or how does that work?
well, it's individual right now. We've talked about, and I think, and I would say with Cynthia and Kathy leading this and so on, there's going to be there's a really strong emphasis on growing the program even further than it is now. And the quality of the conversations is amazing. I think as we continue to grow the community even more so. Yeah, if you have, you know, you think if you just the online community we have to get going too, that where you can connect with people year round as well.
Awesome. Thank
Mhm. Okay, well, we're really glad you're here and
Thank you.
thank you while you're on vacation in Philly.
Yeah.
Joining us. Feel free to reach out. If you've got further questions, I'll put in chat um, my information.
Thank you.
And feel free to reach out. But what you're sharing sounds exciting, and so hopefully we'll see you at Penn, at AHRD, and want to be fascinating to watch you go through this journey.
Awesome. Thank you. I'm really, really excited about it. So again, it's going to be a heavy lift, but I'm looking forward to it. So I want it to be my legacy someday is that I brought AHID to the community college, which is pretty exciting. So, and again, hopefully on the other side, maybe I'm arrogant and maybe it's already out there. I just don't know it, but I did check all 116 schools in California, the community colleges, and it is not.
Wow.
So,
That's an exciting story just to share with
Yeah.
us, in terms of, your process and how you are able to bring that to fruition. And, so having done some program reviews and development, it is a process. So.
well, I'm expecting that one of my reach outs to this group will be Cal State is telling me no because it's exactly the same as HRM. How do I respond to that? And then that's when we can all brainstorm to tell them why they're wrong. So
I think that's a good question, Cynthia and Kathy, just to kind of address too, because I think I've certainly as a non-professor and as your staff person, it's just that HRM versus HRD, and then where's the overlap? I know Wendy Rona wrote a really pretty good article years ago on the difference, between HRM, OD, and HRD. But I think that's a good clarification that we should maybe address on our website.
Okay.
From that perspective. It seems to come up a little bit, more often than not.
One of the things that I remember learning as coming into the field was that it depended on who were the advocates for the field and where it landed in the college. Like at A&M, HRD is in the College of Ed, but our Mays Business School has an HRM degree as well. And so we've got some territorial things going on there. And I know UT Tyler, it's all in the business school.
It is, yes.
And Cynthia, I think yours is in College of Ed.
College of Ed.
Yeah, also. So there are communication things that we can do to inform things. But in the end, there's it's an intertwine, right? You can't do one without the other, but there are important things that HRD brings to the table that HRM doesn't.
Yeah.
And how it's delivered, where it's delivered, depends on who advocates for it. And I think one of the things that we've been talking about is, and I think Cynthia talked about how we want to appeal to more of the master's level. Well, that's because they're practitioners, right? That we are of the opinion that research informs practice, and that practitioners bring value to what it is that researchers do. And so we've always had this tension trying to bring together those two parties. And that master's level, and even now, you're interjecting the associate level, they need to understand sooner than later that even the applied research, the applied understanding that they're developing of the field is, quote, research. And so how can you build a program that capitalizes on that and informs their practice to make it stronger? So lots to think about.
Very, very appropriate. And we didn't have that many issues or run in with the business, because they just were focused on, for the most part, accounting, management, some of the strategic change initiatives. So when we start talking about learning, developing, coaching, leadership development, they talk about leadership, but they don't necessarily talk about leadership development that much. So they're clearly different paths, and so we can talk more about that. But a lot of times we'll have courses, and I think just maybe sharing those. But the business side tends to be so much more. What would the right words be? They're focused on managing the business and not necessarily developing the people in the business. And I think that's really the big distinctions, but I'm sure we can pull more research around that.
I always joke, and it's true too, that my students range, I used to say 18 to 80 because community college, but now it's like 16 or 14 to 80 because we're reaching into the high school to try to recruit through dual enrollment. And so I believe some of our students are on their second career or third career or fourth career. And so I feel like those would be great, especially at the associates level. Like, where do they plan on going with their career? It doesn't matter. I think it's a great goal or achievement for them to be able to be part of that. So, and one of the things I would definitely create an HRD research class, because I think that's important to be able to, because generally you don't think of the community college as a research institute. And so, but we do internal research through different departments. And so one of the things my predecessors have done with other degrees is they make those things you mentioned, like business and management, marketing. I'm sorry, you didn't mention marketing, accounting. Those are key components of all of our degrees. And so if you're an accounting person, an accounting firm, how does HRD apply to you, or why do you care? From a marketing or management or business, how does HRD apply to your area, and why do you care? And so I think it's a valuable, and they're all introduction classes. And so I think it's an important foundation to know that there is HRD in accounting. Like you have to have training, you have to have the leadership, all those things you all know, but I just like saying it because it's true.
Yeah. That was my career for about 8 years, teaching accounting.
Nice.
To new people off the block, our accounting methods. So back in the day. So
nice. Thank you.
all right. Well, so nice to meet you, and best wishes, and reach out if you have
Absolutely.
any questions we may
That's
answer.
awesome. Well, thank you.
Yeah,
I
thank
know
you.
y'all probably didn't plan on this meeting going this direction, but I'm really glad that you made it available and that I feel very positive about it still. So thank you for that.
Great.
Well,
Thank you for coming.
All right, thank you, and
have a
y'all
good
you have a good day.
Great
Thank
day.
you.
Okay.
All right, bye-bye.
Goodbye.